Welcome to Uncle Bob's Magic Cabinet, a mother-daughter podcast on all things magic and pop culture. Three, two, one, and we're on. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Doing good.
Good to see you today.
Yeah, like I don't see you every day.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Hi everyone. I am Leigh. I am the daughter.
And I'm Lori. I'm the mom.
So how was your week? What happened?
My week was okay. Yeah, it was,
Anything exciting?
nothing eventful.
We're still on lockdown.
We're still in lockdown, but we're moving into a different phase. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to have to pardon my dog because I think he can sense when we're about to not pay attention to him. Mm-hmm. And he just likes to start chatting into the microphone.
Yeah, well, he wants to be part. He wants to be part of this team. Mm-hmm. Instead of a duo, be a trio.
A trio. So this will come out, in a couple weeks, but today is Mother's Day.
Today is Mother's Day.
So happy late Mother's Day to everyone out there.
Yeah, by the time they see it, it will be late.
Right.
Right. But today, this is what we're doing.
It's your day.
It's my day.
How do you feel about that?
Hey, I feel good.
Do you?
Yeah. Anytime I'm with you is a good day. So.
Oh, wow. Got some drink in your cup?
Some drink in my cup. It's blue.
It's a little worrying.
Yeah. It does have alcohol in it, so though I'm all right. Again, hello, cheers. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is the second episode.
Of Uncle Bob's Magic Cabinet.
Yeah. How did you feel about the first episode?
I loved it. I listened to it on my walk the other day, and I thought it was pretty good.
I know. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
It feels good. It feels right.
I think we sounded good, and first one. So
first one down,
and it will just get better from there because we're going to get more comfortable, and But I'm having a good time, researching all this stuff.
It is pretty neat. I know.
We've got our list of topics moving into future episodes, and it's like things that I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I know so much about this. And then I start researching and I'm like, how did I not know that? How did I not know this? And then you see a different angle and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so fascinating.
Well, even watching a movie, and you're trying to pay attention to certain things, I found when I was watching my topic for this week, I picked up on a lot of little things that I don't think I ever picked up on before. Yeah. Just because I was paying more close attention. Yeah.
Right. Exciting.
I know.
Yeah.
So do you want to go first this week?
No. I don't think we should jinx that.
What? Why?
I don't know. I like to...
you like me going first?
I like you to start,
All right.
Save the best for last. No, I'm just kidding. Age before beauty.
Mm-hmm. So if you are new here, we are going to each week, we're each going to pick a topic.
Yeah.
Involving magic and pop culture, and we're going to dive into it and dissect it a little bit and talk about maybe its impact on us personally, or witch pop culture, or the witch community, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this week I chose 1986's Witchboard.
Ooh, such a good one.
Ooh, yeah. So if you don't know, it is a movie.
Correct.
Starring the one and only Tawny Katane. Which, if you don't,
of White Snake fame,
of the hood of the car fame.
Yeah, White Snake video, because she was married to David Coverdale from White Snake.
She was, but I think that they got divorced because she threw a shoe at his head, and he had to call the cops on her. Someone fact check me, but I'm almost positive that I read that somewhere along the line.
I'm sure that couldn't have been the only. Well,
he claimed she was abusive. And when asked what she did, she threw a shoe at his head.
Was it a pump?
Yeah, it was like a stiletto heel.
I mean, if it was a ked, it was probably stiletto heel. Yeah, that could cause some damage.
Yeah. So
but like a Chuck Taylor. No, you're probably all right.
Oh my God. So yes, Tawny Katane, which again, I could be wrong. I did not investigate this. I just assumed this was like her only acting role. Am I wrong?
If not, it probably should have been.
Yeah, it should have been. I guess I should say.
Yes, because this foray into the world of movies definitely, rivals her acting on the hood of the White Snake car. I know.
Well, she was like an 80s sex symbol because she was, if you don't know who we're talking about, she's the redhead where, go watch the White Snake Here I Go Again music video because she's like on the hood of the car and she's spinning her hair.
Yeah.
And so she was like this sex symbol.
Not like Reagan in The Exorcist, but she's...
No, she's like, sexily flipping her hair.
Like Rita Hayworth.
So even like I was reading some reviews on this movie and that's what everyone said, like, wow, she sucks at acting, but she looked so good. And I'm thinking like, did she? Because okay.
In the 80s, is that when we said 80?
She had the big hair.
In the 80s, it was all about looking good and,
She definitely had the like
red
symbolic 80s hairdo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
so it starred her as Linda. Todd Allen is Jim and Stephen Nichols is Brandon, which you always tell me he was Patch.
He was Patch in Days of Our Lives. So that's exactly, and we were talking about this the other day. That's how we stumbled across this movie because, this was not a box office smash, I believe. As we said, this went directly to video.
Yeah,
so
it did not do great from my research.
I don't think it had a theatrical
No,
release.
and as a member, because we talked about before, me and my husband collect VHS tapes, specifically horror. So I'm like in a bunch of horror groups on Facebook and stuff like that. No one ever talks about this movie.
Really?
Like I feel like it's not even known in the horror community or they just know about it and they don't like it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, so I used to, as a teenager, watch soap opera. I'm embarrassed to say because that's what you did back then. It wasn't like there were tons of channels like we have today. It was like your three
soaps.
basic channels, and if you wanted to watch something in the afternoon, you watched soap operas. And so I watched Days of Our Lives.
And he was Patch.
And he played the character of Patch, Stephen Nichols, and I just adored him because, the rebel type. Love him.
Oh, was he the bad boy?
He was the bad boy, of course.
So he's not in this movie.
He's not in this movie. He's
he's Mr. Clean Cut.
The pompous douchebag,
Right. So I have all my notes here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie dropped in 1986. So in the middle of the quote-unquote satanic panic.
Satanic Panic. What? Tell me.
Well, we're going to have to do a whole other podcast on that. So apparently there was like this string of lawsuits against these people for performing satanic rituals on kids and all this stuff in the 80s. So and kind of after the Manson murders, it kind of spawned this like deep fear of the occult. So in the 80s, you saw a lot of movies coming out about the occult. Like scary movies. Yes, I want to dive more into that. So, the Satanic Panic, the tagline of the movie is, when you open the door to the unknown, there's no telling who will drop in or who will drop dead. Ooh.
Scary.
Scary. Is that as scary as Tawny Kitane's acting? I don't know. You got to watch to find out.
It's definitely packed with some 80s horror cheese.
Yes, I would highly recommend watching it. Number one,
so bad.
It is cheese-tastic. It's like everything you want from an 80s horror movie, right? The soundtrack is like littered with synths and just everything you want from an 80s movie soundtrack.
Right.
Okay. The theme song is called Bump in the Night by Steel Breeze.
Oh, nice.
And it's as good as that sounds. So, yeah, I mean,
a low-budget film.
Low budget. It's not a gory horror film. So like if that's your kind of jam, no.
Yeah,
it's like suspense and tension.
You're probably better than me, but I feel like 80s horrors kind of has that cheese comical factor to it to lighten up the horror. So
I don't think that this one intended.
Oh,
I really don't. I think that they were trying to be uber serious with this one.
Really?
I really do.
I felt like Kathleen Wilhoit lended some humor.
There were funny moments, but overall I think that it was not supposed to be like campy. Right?
Yeah. So her as the psychic or the tarot card reader, whatever she was doing.
Yeah, we didn't get there yet. But yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. I interjected. Okay, you go.
You go.
You go.
Stop trying to rush me, Mom. So I'm going to give a little rundown of the movie. I'm going to try not to spoil it as much as possible, but here is your spoiler alert. I'm going to give a rundown, but then there's something specifically that I want to dissect a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay? So the movie opens up at a party. The three main characters we talked about, Jim, Brandon, and Linda. Mm-hmm. Jim and Linda are a couple, but Linda used to date Brandon.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum. So there's some tension there. Why Jim and Linda invited Brandon to this party, I will never understand. Because Jim and Brandon hate each other, right? Because they both want Linda.
Did they used to be best friends or something?
Yes, they used to be best friends. I know.
And the plot thickens.
And the plot thickens. So, at this party, Brandon, who seems to be like really into the occult and witchy stuff, right, brings a Ouija board. Mm-hmm. And they play it at this party. And Linda gets hooked on it, okay, and begins to play it alone. Which is a big no-no, according to Brandon. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Right.
At one point, the spirit that they're talking to is supposedly a 10-year-old boy.
Okay.
Okay, so Linda sees no harm in talking to this spirit. Mm-hmm. He's innocent. He's,
Yeah.
He's nice to her. He helps her find her ring that she lost in the sink.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love that scene when she's trying to get it out of the drain and she's
she's like, I broke my nail.
I know it was like 10 inches long.
My nail got caught in the sink. So yeah, the spirit starts off being really nice to her and helping her out. And then all of a sudden it takes a turn. Mm-hmm. She becomes obsessed with the board. She's playing it all the time by herself. I love that the more she plays with the board, the darker her wardrobe gets and the bigger her hair gets.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't know if they did that on purpose.
Well, you can't have a possession without big hair, so.
Right, and she starts wearing like really thick black eyeliner, and I'm like, she must be getting possessed. There's the black. It's happening.
There it goes.
They bring in this medium who you were talking about, Zarabeth, I believe is her name.
Yes.
She performs, she's trying to get rid of the spirit.
Yeah.
She supposedly gets rid of it, but she says, I don't think that spirit was a 10-year-old boy. It seemed much more powerful and dark.
That's correct.
She is the best part of the movie. She's hilarious.
Well, and the one friend that he's not in there long, but...
What's his name? I wrote it down. Lloyd. I think his name was Lloyd.
Hilarious.
Multiple sadness.
I
know, hilarious.
Yeah, he was great.
Great one-liners in the whole movie.
Great one-liners, yeah. Yeah.
So yes, the medium comes in, says, that's not a 10-year-old boy. He's tricking you. Mm-hmm, okay. Mm-hmm. Linda gets possessed. A lot of people die throughout the movie.
Zarabeth.
Spoiler, she gets it in a hilarious way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of falling out of windows in this movie in like very slow motion.
Yes.
Because, of course.
Yeah.
Like they fall out of the window for 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah.
And probably you don't know, but I know that the landlord in that is played by Rosemary. So this probably predates you, but she was like big on, I think, the Mary Tyler Moore show. And so she was,
she had a voice that
she was someone to be reckoned with in the day. She was very popular.
So she made a cameo.
So she made a cameo. She was probably the highest paid person in the film.
Well, that is one thing. For the time, it had kind of like a star-studded cast. Like everyone was so excited that Tawny Katane was in this movie, and Patch.
I was excited Stephen Nichols was in it.
Right.
I don't know the other guy though. I
like him, Jim Todd Allen. He's my favorite.
Yeah, but was he? I don't recognize him outside of this movie.
I don't either. He makes an appearance in the second one because there are two after this.
Ooh, a Witchboard 1, 2, and 3. Wow.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
Are we doing all three today or just the first one?
We are just doing the first one because the second one warrants its own. The third was, in my opinion, complete trash, and I don't like to talk about it.
Not worth a podcast.
I have it on VHS, and sometimes I look at it and I'm like, I want to throw that away because it's that bad. It should not be part of this franchise if that's what this is. It was so bad.
Mm-hmm. So when we move forward and we're talking about, your huge VHS collection, what year did they stop making VHSs?
Oh my gosh, my husband knows this. 2003.
2003?
He's signaling at me 4, I think.
2004. Okay.
Was American History X the last movie they made? I'm waiting for his response.
Dead silence.
Yeah, so I think it was 2003 or 2004.
So after that, then you no more VHS?
No more VHS.
Wow.
I know, it's sad because there are a lot. Well, that's a bold statement. There weren't.
It was a history of violence in March of 2006.
Oh, a history of violence. I was close.
Oh, close. 2006?
2006?
Wow.
That was a few years off
so
there.
only 14 years.
Right. And then we had to move to DVDs, which I am not a fan of. We got rid of most of our DVDs.
And so your generation was probably the last one to, like, still, on Friday nights, we made trips to the video store.
The local video store,
we rented VHSs. That's what
every weekend. That's what we did on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And we loved horror.
And that's how we found this gem. In the bargain bin of...
Please rent this. No one will take it.
Of our local video store.
Oh, my God. So, yes, back to the plot of Witchboard. So, Zarabeth, says, no, it's actually a spirit called, are you ready for this? Malfader.
Malfader. Yeah, I do remember that.
Which I should have looked up what that means because it has to mean something.
I'm sure it does.
Okay.
Because you have the big poster.
I do. So, apparently, Malfader was a serial killer who lived and died in Jim and Linda's house, which is why he possessed the spirit board, and he tricked them by making it seem like he was a young kid.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Jim was a non-believer.
Jim was a non-believer, yes.
Thought this was doohickey nonsense.
He sure did. Crack jokes the whole time. It was hilarious. So yeah, Linda becomes possessed. Jim ends up shooting the Ouija board, which then breaks her connection to Malfader, and that's
pretty much the end of it.
That's pretty much the end of it.
Except, don't they throw the board in the trash, but then it...
No, so the girl you were talking about, the landlord,
Rosemary,
she finds it with all of the bullet holes in it.
Okay.
And she's like, oh, you're never supposed to play with these, and kind of tosses it aside, and then you see the planchette move.
On its own.
Dun, dun.
On its own.
Hence, there's a sequel.
Ooh.
Okay, so that is Witchboard in a nutshell.
Yeah, and so we've already talked about, because we have a Witchboard. Like, we have a Ouija board from the 30s.
So that's what I want to dive into.
Oh, okay. I'm going to shut my trap.
You're going to shut my trap. Okay, so at the very beginning, when Brandon brings out the Ouija board, and I could be wrong, but I do think that this was... You know how there are a bunch of movies about Ouija boards now? Mm-hmm. I think this was one of the first.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like, so you can clown on it all you want, but okay, it paved the way for all of these really crappy movies that they're making now. So at the very beginning, when Brandon brings out the board, he goes through a list of like do's and don'ts. Mm-hmm. And I want to go through those and fact check a little bit.
Fact check? Mm-hmm. Is it a Milton Bradley board?
It's not, but
Really?
it is a really pretty board.
Oh, okay. I can't remember.
Me and my husband talk all the time about wanting to track down. It looks kind of similar to like what people are familiar with, so I guess that would be a Milton Bradley board, but no, it's pretty.
Interesting.
It's more intricate, and the planchette is like bigger than my head.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Because the planchette on the Milton Bradley is like plastic. And
It's not a Milton Bradley board.
Gotcha.
Okay, so here are Brandon's rules. I'm going to read them all, and then we can dive in.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, he says that Ouija comes from the French and German words for yes, oui and ja. Okay? He says that they have been around since recorded history, before 540 BC.
What?
I know. He says 2 people must play, and it should be a man and a woman.
Really?
Yep, and they both should be clean and pure, which means no drinking, no smoking.
Oh, yeah.
You're like,
Good luck trying to find that.
Right. He claims that the spirits use the people playing as the entrance, not the board.
Interesting.
Okay. He says that spirits are lousy spellers and they like to lie to you. Mm-hmm. You should always say thank you, goodbye when you're done.
Yeah.
Every board has its own dominant spirit. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yep. And the number one biggie, which I believe was the other tagline for the movie, is never play alone.
Correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this?
I have heard many of them, but there are a few on there that, I had not heard.
Shocking.
Right. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So the first one is actually kind of like a Ouija urban legend.
Okay.
Supposedly, it does not come from the French and German words for yes. So Brandon was wrong.
But they always say oui.
Oui. Yeah.
French,
So
oui.
later, the people that invented the board came out and said, yeah, that's right. But supposedly, and it's a man named Charles Kennard in 1901, claimed that they did a seance with the board and like after they had made it.
Okay.
And the spirit that they were talking to, when asked what it wanted to be called, said Ouija. And when they asked what that meant, they said it was an old Egyptian word for good luck.
Well, don't the boards say good luck on them?
Some of them.
Some of them do?
They say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
But supposedly from the guy that made this is what the spirit told them.
Okay.
From like the first board. Okay. But then later was like, yeah, sure, it means yes.
Yeah. And of course, me in my mind, I'm like, so where'd they get the idea to make the board that way?
So that's the kind of going into the next one, that they've been around since recorded history before 540 BC. Technically, that is false.
Okay.
Because there is no record of like ancient Ouija boards. But there are records of like spiritualism and talking to the dead. But like the actual boards that we know of didn't come around until 1886.
Interesting.
Yeah.
1886.
So a lot of people credit the Fox sisters
Really?
with kind of coming up with the board.
Really? Which is a whole nother podcast.
Right.
The Fox sisters.
I did read that the planchette they used to put a pencil in the hole of the planchette, and then they would move it around and the spirit would spell or draw with the pencil.
Okay.
Whereas now, supposedly, if you hold up the planchette, you can either see the spirit through the hole or you can see the letters on the board.
Okay. Yeah, I always took that to mean the letters on the board because we watched that other.
Right. But I have heard that before.
Yeah. I had
that if you hold it up.
Yeah, see, I had not heard that before. We watched that one last week.
Right. So, let's see the next one. 2 people must play, should be a man and woman, and should be clean and pure. I put this as up to the user because I have never, ever heard that it should be a man and a woman. And
no,
I
I've
think
never heard that either.
Probably the reason that they included that in this movie was because he wanted to play with Linda. And he liked Linda, right? Like, I think that's...
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. It should be a man or a woman.
I think that was just him trying to.
I like took it seriously and I was like, okay, let's see if this comes up anywhere else. And I could not find that was ever a thing. But the clean and pure thing...
Well, sure.
I tend to agree with. Because he says that... Because in the movie they say that they're using you...
Right.
So if you're drunk or high or whatever, the connection's going to be wonky.
Right.
I tend to think that you're not going to use your head clearly and you're messing with something that maybe you shouldn't. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
This is coming from someone who used to play.
I was going to say, you have personal experience there. Yeah, definitely. And we've had many experiences where,
I should not have been playing with
You should not have been playing while you were imbibing alcohol. Right.
I used to use it kind of like they did in this movie as like a party trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, in my opinion, now disrespectful.
Yes.
But
there were consequences. Yeah.
Yeah. I have not played with it in probably like 8 years.
Yeah. Because of an experience.
Because it used to tell me some weird crap.
Yeah. Right.
Like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we know when we go and visit the spiritual community, it's dry. There's no alcohol in there.
Right.
And stuff like that. So and it's definitely, we've learned that.
Correct.
That you are supposed to be, clean and pure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I tend to believe that is correct.
I
but
agree.
I would say that it's kind of up to the user, but I would not recommend using one if you were
Yeah. And I would say a too enthusiastic thumbs down on the male and female, because
I think that's bullcrap.
Most men are kind of, now I don't want to generalize here, but most men poo-poo it. And they're kind of like,
I think it depends, yeah.
It depends, but, they're, yeah.
You're like,
yeah, we're not going to go in there, but you know,
like, I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to get. Yeah, exactly. But
yeah, like I said, I think that was just a plot mover to kind of drive home the like love triangle in the movie. I don't think that there's any weight to that. And I was trying to think like, well, why? Like, why would that even be a thing? And I can't even think of why that would be.
Yeah, no.
So I'm going to go with no.
I'm not buying that. Yeah,
on that one
for sure.
Oh, he did say that you should never play on a table. Okay, and that you should always rest the board on your knees, like the knees of whoever is playing, so that the board can harness your energy.
What do we think about that?
I think that that's interesting. But I also think that you could fiddle with it. Yeah,
I think that it would be easier to
right.
Yeah,
I have always played on a table.
Yeah. And I just choose not to play.
I guess I would say up to the user on that as well.
I would think it would be difficult to maneuver on someone's knees.
Well, like your lap.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe, again, he was just trying to get Linda's hand near his I don't know. Maybe that was another plot mover. I don't know. He really wanted Tawny Katane in this movie.
He sure did.
What's the other one? Spirits are lousy spellers and like to lie.
I've heard that.
I have not heard the spelling one. Really?
Yeah.
The only time I have ever heard that is in this movie. But as far as I know, it is very like a common knowledge that spirits will lie to you on a Ouija board.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
For sure.
You were a very firm believer that it is only like low-level spirits that come through a Ouija board.
People that can't come to you like in your dreams or through visions or communicate with you in another way because they, they haven't reached a level on the other side where they know what they're doing. And so they kind of tend to, because they'll say like, if you were a bad person on this plane and did bad things, when you cross over to the spiritual side, you have a lot of lessons to learn and a lot of work to do before you are given all of the privileges or, you know how to work your way around things. So it takes a while. And if they're trying to communicate with you, it's easy to, come through on the board. And a lot of times for you to trust them, they'll say that they're children. And I think that's where the spelling comes in, because most small children would not necessarily know how to spell.
Interesting. I didn't think about it in that way.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I am always a little cautious because I have had spirits come through on the board that say that they're people I know that have passed.
Okay.
And I'm always very cautious.
Yeah.
And I try to ask very specific questions because I do think that they could maybe tend to lie and try to get an in.
I agree.
Right.
For sure.
So I would say up to the user on that.
Right.
About the lousy spelling too. I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you had a lot of kids come through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
I was like trying to recollect back, but I think that you have.
I used to play with those way too much.
And I
never alone though. I always followed. So I'll jump to that one. I would say a big yes on the don't play alone. Now, in doing some research, I was reading a lot of like witch forums and stuff about this just to see what other people in the community thought. And some people think that you can play alone. You just have to be careful. Maybe clean the energy, protect yourself.
Yeah.
So, again, I would, it's up to you.
Yeah.
But I personally would never play alone.
Right. And especially alone and drunk.
Absolutely not. That sounds like a hot mess.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
So every board has its own dominant spirit. I think that is very interesting.
That's interesting, but I don't know if I buy into that.
I don't know, because I could see, like, so in the movie, the reason he possesses this board, right, is because they were playing in the house where he had died.
Okay.
So he was using that as like a portal to be able to kill again.
Yeah.
Because it's an 80s movie. But I could see how, like, I mean, boards are old. So it's got to have some, like, stuff hanging around it.
Because, like, what if Stephen Nichols didn't bring the board to that particular party in that house and it was somewhere else? Would it be a different spirit?
Right, but so he claimed that he talked to this little boy, David, all the time.
Oh, right.
So he claimed that the board's dominant spirit was David, who was actually a real spirit.
Yeah.
But then when he brought it into the house, Malfader overpowered the 10-year-old David.
But so more than one spirit can come through on the board.
Oh, yes. But he's saying that it tends to have, like, you'll be talking to maybe the same people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Will hang around, per se.
Gotcha.
Which, in my experience, is 100% true.
Okay.
Almost every time I talked on the Ouija board, it would do something to signify that it was a spirit I had spoken to before.
Okay.
Which in the movie, the way he knows he's talking to David is it will do a figure 8.
Oh, right. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
So again, I would leave that up to your judgment. I think that people can think, whatever you want. But I would say that I would maybe buy into that a little bit.
Interesting.
I'd hang around my board. I'd follow it. It might be fun.
Interesting. Okay.
The next one is you should always say thank you and goodbye when you're done. And that is something I have heard since I was little.
Yes. Right. And that is written on boards. Right?
Goodbye. Yeah. Yes. Hello and goodbye are normally, it's not, it is on ours.
Yeah. Hello and goodbye.
And conditions good is on ours. But goodbye is normally always, I have a Ouija board shirt on.
Oh, yeah, you do.
And see, goodbye is only, and this I think is modeled after a Milton Bradley board.
Yeah.
So
a mystifying oracle.
Yes, I was always told that you do not take your hands off of the planchette until you are ready to say goodbye. And if you don't say goodbye and you take your hands off of the planchette, that will leave the door open, is what I was always told.
Okay.
So in order to close the door and make sure that no spirits are going to come like haunt you after you're done playing, you have to say thank you, goodbye. And then take your hands off.
Take your hands off the planchette. Okay, good.
Right.
Yeah, I love the boards and I love collecting them, but I do not play.
I've not play with one now.
But
yeah, I would not play with one now. When I was little, I was a little more ballsy, I think. Now I'm like, I think I'm good.
Yeah. I think I'll just observe that from
and
afar.
There are a lot
gorgeous.
of people that think it is simply just a game. And
sure.
So, I mean, you can, there are probably people out there that are like, this is not even a thing. I do believe it's a thing.
Yeah.
I just like mediums can talk to people who've passed or, I think that it is a form of spiritual communication.
Yeah.
But I think that because it was marketed as a game, and I have the year here, 1890 is when it became a game.
Wow. Well, I think during the Victorian era, spiritualism really had like a resurgence, or that's really...
1886 was the rise of spiritualism.
Yeah.
Right.
So...
But then they started marketing it as like a household game.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Everybody come on over and let's play the Ouija board.
I know sometimes you'll see it in like, I think we were watching Breaking Bad and they were in like an old folks home and there were a bunch of board games and you saw a Ouija board. I'm like, who's like playing that like you're playing a game of Scrabble? Like, let me just break out the Ouija board.
Well, I think they, like a game of Twister. I think I recall seeing commercials
for Ouija boards,
for Milton Bradley's Ouija boards
gosh,
when I was a kid.
Track those
so
down.
The 70s. Yeah, you'd have to. That would be cool to find
that
an
would
old
be super
commercial
cool.
For that. Everybody, come on in and play.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
So I would that's my spiel. I think it is a very cool movie, and I think that it handles the Ouija board in a very cool way. Like the stuff that he said is neat. It's not like it was used as a game or they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
If you get the DVD, because me and Jake were watching like behind the scenes stuff, if you get the DVD, it comes with like a little Ouija board and a little tiny planchette.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So I might get the DVD just to have the little
So you have
planchette. Yeah.
It'll, I already know that'll be a Christmas tree ornament.
Oh my God, that would be cool. That would be super cool.
Absolutely.
I would watch the movie. I would give that movie 2 enthusiastic thumbs up.
Hey, I love it. That's some 80s cheese right there. I really dug it.
And the one-liners.
Oh, yeah, good.
Zara Beth, specifically the medium, we quote her. All that top-notch job there, Jim.
TTFN.
I know.
And so we mentioned that was Kathleen Wilhoit.
Who was in Gilmore Girls, I know, yeah.
Who played Luke Dane's sister in Gilmore Girls.
She's hilarious.
And she's a good actress.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah, I dig her.
Yeah. She's the best part of that movie, hands down. So, I would go watch that and maybe play with the Ouija board. I don't know. Up to you.
A little walk on the wild side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're feeling spicy.
Feeling a little saucy.
So, that is my topic of the week.
Wonderful. Are we
Thanks,
ready?
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about yours.
Mine is, crazy. So I decided that this week I was going to do Led Zeppelin. Specifically, the album titled Led Zeppelin IV.
Okay, so why Led Zeppelin?
Well, because, first of all, I love Led Zeppelin, of course, And so, again, when we talk about, maybe people are thinking like, why are we doing a mother-daughter podcast? But in an era when we go out in public and we see people wearing like Led Zeppelin t-shirts and,
they
Pink
have
Floyd,
definitely become...
because they've become trendy and popular, but... they don't know who the bands are. Because I always purposefully, I'm like, so what's your favorite tune from
She always tries to
Pink
clock
Floyd?
people.
Yeah, and they'll be like, well.
It's like in Clueless. Do you like Billie Holiday?
Oh, I love him.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. So, in my generation... You live for the stuff, and vinyl was where it was. There was no DVDs, there was no Spotify, there wasn't any of that. And so we would wait for the vinyl to hit the record store. And then that's what you would usually do on the weekend is like hang out in the record store.
It
and
was like that for 90s kids with CDs.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the generation after mine doesn't, maybe they're waiting for mixtapes to drop, but to have a physical, tangible...
Right.
Yeah. I think definitely died after my generation.
And it's definitely, the CD though is small. So when you're like looking at the album cover art on a vinyl,
it's the best.
Which is why we also collect vinyl. Right. And just the smell.
The crackling sound of the
vinyl. Yeah, vinyl LP. And so always fascinated with that particular album because, I love tarot cards. And so that one represents, it has the hermit on the inside of the cover. And so that was really what was propelling me to do this. I was like, hey, I wonder why they put the hermit on there. Right. You know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to tap into this. And then I ended up falling down the rabbit hole in my research. And it was like, oh my gosh, there's like so much stuff. So literally there'll probably be several episodes of podcasts on Led Zeppelin. They're because fascinating. The mysticism, I didn't even, break down any of the songs like Stairway to Heaven or anything like that. Because it was like, that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself, It was
Robert Plant specifically that was... Or was it
Jimmy Page?
Was it Jimmy Page? Yeah. I always thought it was Robert Plant. Okay.
Yeah. So Jimmy Page was definitely
the one. Okay.
So Jimmy Page and Robert Plant were both deep into the occult, specifically Page. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to tap into that a little bit. So the album came out in 1971. Okay. Zeppelin IV.
Good year.
Yeah.
As if I was there.
I actually was.
I remember it fondly.
I was there. Yeah. So when I started studying the album cover, it was like, this is so cool. So again, the hermit was the catalyst, but then there was so much more. So what was interesting is they're basically saying that of all rock and roll groups, nothing dredges up ideas of the occult more than Led Zeppelin.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Their lyrics are sprinkled with
and Robert
references.
Plant was the lyricist.
Right. And I think that's why I always just assumed it was him.
Yeah. Right. So one of the fascinating things about this is when this album came out, they decided that they were not going to put any... Like the name wasn't no words. There was no, there was nothing on it that would tell you who put this album out. So the band name wasn't on there. The record label wasn't on there. And in that time period, like I know people have done that since then.
But they were trailblazers in a lot of ways. They just did what they wanted, man.
They sure did. And so that was considered career suicide,
right?
To do something like that, to put out an album.
That didn't have your name plastered all over it.
Right. And then the only way you're going to find out who did the album is to take the vinyl out. And
Record store owners everywhere were probably like, no.
Exactly. But then, they're giving you all these clues on the album cover.
Very
and then
mysterious,
inside of the sleeve. So they're saying like not even on the binding, there was nothing to tell you that this was a Led Zeppelin album.
I think that I had noticed that before.
Yeah.
While record shopping. Mm-hmm. And picking up that record for the first time thinking like, is this a Led Zeppelin? Like, what is this? Because obviously I wasn't alive at that time, but
right. Yeah.
Remembering feeling the like mysterious air to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at a time when this came out, when you weren't like, Google wasn't at the tip of a finger where you could be just like, hey, who put this album out? It's kind of like you had to research.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the background that comes into this is kind of like, well, they wanted people to dig into the mysticism, and a lot of people say, well, because they were trying to gather followers through the music into the occult, because we'll dive into Jimmy Page and a lot of his stuff there. So when you open up the album and you take out the paper sleeve that the vinyl's in, you'll see a set of symbols.
So is this the first album where you see the symbols
I believe
that are known?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're only seeing that set of symbols, and that is actually the title of the album, is the set of symbols.
The set of symbols.
It's not Led Zeppelin IV, but that's how it's just become known. So
how are you going to pronounce
the artist formerly known as Prince with a symbol? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was kind of like ahead of their time. They did the symbols.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so the first one, and so basically the symbols represented each person in the band.
I did know that.
They picked their symbol and they designed it.
Okay.
Or, picked it and it represented them.
Okay. So who was who?
So the first symbol that you see when you open is the Zozo.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's Jimmy Page.
Okay.
And so that's considered like the most mysterious of them.
Because I have no idea what that means.
Yeah. Okay. And it's really not known outside of him.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So it dates back to an 1844 French publication.
Okay.
I couldn't even pronounce the name of the book, but you see that symbol in there.
Okay.
And then in 1972, it's in the Dumas Grimoire, but that was already after
he had used it. So what does it mean?
So, well, there's a lot of differing ideology of what it means. But what has come up the most and what he has specifically said is that the symbol represents Saturn.
Okay.
Which is the ruler of Capricorn, which is his sun sign.
Ugh.
And it is also Capricorn represents the hard work, like the planet. It's
just
the astrology symbol for hard work.
Okay.
So and he's considered one of the, the hardest working people. This is Jimmy Page.
Okay.
So we have 4 band members, right?
So I wouldn't get along with Jimmy Page. No. So I'm judging him because of his sun sign right now. Okay.
I'm judging him. So that's his. And so you will see that like on his band equipment. He's put it on clothing and stuff like that, but specifically representing him.
That is very cool.
Cool?
Okay.
So then the next one, you have seen actually other places.
I have it tattooed on me.
You have it tattooed on you, and it is the Triquetra.
It is.
Right.
And you have one too, don't you?
Do I have one?
Do you not? I don't
think
why
I
that's
have
shocking.
the Triquetra. No. So again, that symbol can be seen in many different places, but that one represents bass and keyboard player John Paul Jones.
Okay.
So he picked that to represent the Trinity.
Right.
So
it depends.
It depends.
So in Celtic,
it's deep in Celtic.
Mother, maid, crone.
Mother, maid, and crone.
Mind, body, soul.
Mind, body, soul. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It also has been seen to represent the Rosicrucian, which is a society or an order of mystics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's also can be seen on some Northern European runes and Germanic coins.
Okay.
So a lot of these symbols came about because the band had gone over to, what was it? Where's the Nordic?
You're clocking me. I don't. I'm looking at my husband like.
Yeah, they had taken a trip over to Iceland.
Okay.
And so Jimmy Page became very fascinated with runes, which is where
which
a lot
I would
of
like
these,
to learn more about.
Yeah, which a lot of these symbols come from. And
Interesting.
so John Paul Jones is the Triquetra, or the Trinity. And then John Bonham is the next one, which is the 3 interlocking circles.
Isn't it kind of like another?
So a lot of people have said that represents his drums and cymbals because he was the drummer.
Okay.
But his son has come out to say that it represented man, wife, and child.
Okay, because he had a family of 3.
Yes, but he actually had 2 sons, if I recall, but maybe at the time.
Yikes.
Or that's what it meant to him. So both him and John Paul Jones, these 2 symbols can be, they pulled those symbols out of, it's called The Book of Signs by Rudolf Koch.
Okay.
And that's where those symbols came from.
I think I need to have that book. That sounds fun.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So that was John Bonham. And it also can be seen as the logo for Ballantine Beer, which apparently he picked the logo. And then they actually, let's tie this in, is a trip to Pittsburgh. They came to Pittsburgh and found they were drinking this Ballantine beer and found that it was the symbol for that. I was like, wow, a Pittsburgh connection. How interesting, right?
Fun.
Yeah.
This next one is my favorite. The next symbol.
Yes.
It has always been super mysterious.
Right. And so also his symbol can be seen in the Hierophant card of the Thoth deck, which is Aleister Crowley's deck. So, and it represents Isis, Osiris, and Horus, which is...
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of Egyptian stuff going on there as well. Yeah.
Which is interesting that, like I was talking about, the Ouija board supposedly came from an Egyptian word.
Yeah.
That's like,
well, there's a lot of mysticism and occult in
I know, that's
the
interesting.
Egypt stuff. Yeah. So then the next one, the final will be Robert Plant. And what's
his sun sign? Someone tell me.
I don't know.
Jake, Google it right now. Get on it.
Look it up.
Is he an Aquarius?
Is he?
I don't know. It's just a guess. It's just a guess.
Interesting.
Probably not. If he's a Capricorn, I'm out.
So his symbol is represented by a feather.
Okay.
Which, so when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, it must have Native American roots, which has been, some of the, talk, but it actually is a quill, which is the mark of the scribe or the songwriter.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is cool.
So he refers to it, Robert Plant has referred to it as laying down the truth.
Oh, I like him. He has to be an Aquarius. Oh, no. What is he?
He's a Leo.
He's a Leo.
Oh. Wow. Fascinating.
Which is the opposite of an Aquarius.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Flashy.
I need his whole chart. I'm going to go do it later. Oh, my God.
Jake's already pulled it up.
Jake pulled up his whole chart.
Robert Plant.
Oh, my God. He is a sun in Leo, a moon in Pisces. What's his rising? Someone tell me. A Sagittarius.
Oh, that's an interesting
like
combination.
Combo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So so again, they were deep into the Egyptian stuff.
Yeah.
He was as well. And it comes from the civilization, the Mai civilization, and the Book of Sacred Symbols. So the feather in that culture represented the Egyptian goddess of justice. And so it is considered the heart when someone dies. The heart is weighed against the feather. And so if the heart is heavy, because you're carrying a lot of stuff with you, you cannot go to the you can't go to the underworld.
Well,
if you have a heavy
guess
heart.
I'm not going. Okay.
Yeah. So interesting.
That
right?
is very cool. I knew what the Triquetra was, but I did not know the other ones.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So then we get into, you're like, say.
No, you just yelled into the microphone. I was like, ah.
Did I?
Yeah,
was
sorry,
too close?
headphone.
I was more than.
Headphone users everywhere just went.
Oh my gosh. I was taking a deep breath and trying to I'm so excited about talking all this stuff.
I can imagine I used to have a book on them and the occult, and it it was a heavy read. Like there was so much.
Yeah. I mean, it just can go on and on and on. And I probably have spun another 2 or 3 podcasts out of just this research because there was so much to go into. I had to really, get picky and choosy. So when we tap into Jimmy Page then, so I said Jimmy Page, Robert Plant were the most into the mysticism of it all.
Okay.
Specifically Jimmy Page.
Did he buy? Is he the one that bought?
So, yes. So, he was a serious student of Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. He bought his house or
so
something.
So, he bought the house. Yes.
She's like, you're messing up my flow.
You're messing up my flow, messing up my notes. Right. So, we're not going to go deep into Aleister Crowley because that's a whole nother podcast. But I will say that he lived from 1875 to 1947.
Oh,
so,
really?
And I don't know why I thought that he had come way before that.
Oh, did you?
No, I thought he was alive maybe in the 50s.
I thought he was alive in the 70s. My bad.
Yeah.
But maybe because of their tie together, maybe that's why I thought that.
Well, what they're saying, I'm not going to go deep into Crowley because, again, that's a whole nother one. But he was a philosopher. He was British.
Okay.
A philosopher and an occultist.
Yes.
Okay. And he dabbled in black magic in the early 20th century, right?
Yeah, he's like the black magic king.
Yeah. And he's considered way ahead of his time.
Okay.
In 1898, he joined a Hermetic order called the Golden Dawn, also related to Rosicrucians. So the Order of Mystics. Okay. So he was on a trip to Egypt, right?
Okay.
He comes back and he writes this book called The Book of Law, which is a personal liberation philosophy into do what thou will.
Is that what you just read, babe? Yeah, my husband just read that.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by this.
So while he was alive, they're saying he's way ahead of his time because while he was alive, he had very few followers. Like nobody was buying what he was selling. Right?
That always seems to be the way.
Right. And so then after his death, many years later, he, accumulated this cult following. And they're saying that a lot of it had to do with, the philosophy is kind of like a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, kind of like do what you want. And when you're coming out of the 1950s, when everything was like,
rock and roll, baby.
Well, everything was like, goody-goody type
they
thing.
need to loosen up.
Then you come into the 60s and it's like freedom and liberation. And so he appealed to the 1960s counterculture.
Gotcha.
And, kind of, we can coin the phrase, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
So, yeah.
Coming from that philosophy where it's like, we're free and we can do what we want. Right. And so he amassed this like cult following, and Jimmy Page was one of those people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
So, a lot of times there's so many rumors that go around about Led Zeppelin, specifically that they made this Faustian deal because he was like this follower of Aleister Crowley, and then you can play a lot of their music and there's satanic messaging and all that kind of stuff in it.
That is something I used to do when I was little. Fun fact: I used to play records backwards to try to hear any messages.
I used to do that on my Beatles vinyl, but I could never. Yeah,
there are some creepy ones.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
Hotel California is the creepiest one, if I do recall.
Is it?
I'm going to do that one first.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. That's on my list. Don't steal it.
I'm going to take it.
Don't you dare.
No, it's actually not on my list.
I'm taking it.
Interesting.
So but yeah, I did. That was like a big thing when I was younger. I wonder if other 90s kids, like the thought of playing music backwards and finding like, I think it's because, what I think spawned that for my generation? You're going to have to look up the bit. Was it Judas Priest? Someone had killed themselves and said that it was because of a Judas Priest song. So then they started saying that rock and roll music, when you played it backwards, I could be totally making that up, but I swear in one of my like rock and roll urban legend books, that was a thing. I hope it was Judas Priest or else I'm like, but yeah. So then like people my age were like, we have to go into rock and roll music. We have to play it all backwards.
Interesting.
Yeah. Was it Judas Priest?
Woo! You go, girl. You go, girl.
Nice.
So cool. So, interestingly enough, one of the theories, because all these weird things started happening to Led Zeppelin. So, one of the theories was this Faustian pact that they made with the devil and Aleister Crowley.
So they made a deal with the devil.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
all through rock and roll.
Right. And
Okay.
so Jimmy Page introduces the other band members to Aleister Crowley's teachings, and he's like, come on board. And so they're all like, we're all on board except John Paul Jones. He's like, I'm not having none of this. And so when they're talking about all these weird things that start happening to the band members that causes what they say the ultimate breakup in 1980,
Okay.
John Paul Jones is the only one that escapes any
Untouched.
trauma unscathed because he did not sign that deal. He didn't want any parts of the
Way to go, John.
of the mysticism. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. So Jimmy Page went as far, well, one of the other theories was that, I don't know what year it was, but there was a film called Lucifer Rising.
Okay.
And the producer was Kenneth Anger. And he
Okay.
was a good friend of Jimmy Page's.
Okay.
And so Jimmy Page agreed to do the soundtrack for that movie. And I think he
have
was
to
like
see
staying at Jimmy Page's or something. And they had a huge falling out. And Jimmy Page never ended up doing the
darn it.
soundtrack. And this guy came out publicly, and he was also a student of Aleister Crowley. And this guy supposedly came out, and said he cursed the band.
Interesting.
Interesting. And after that is when all these weird things started happening to the band.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but Jimmy Page actually went so far as he owned a bookshop.
Okay.
Okay. In the 1970s, he financed this bookshop for, it was in Kensington, and it sold rare and antique occult books.
You go, Jimmy Page.
And he often found them, so he would search stuff out when they were on their trips,
That is fun.
on their tours and stuff.
Okay.
And he would bring them back and sell them. It was called the Equinox, was the name of the shop, and it was named after Aleister Crowley's magazine called the Equinox.
Wow.
I think he was deep into Aleister Crowley.
Tell me, he bought his house.
He did buy his house, and it's called the Boleskine House.
The Boleskine House. Where is it, in California?
No, it is in England.
Oh,
I'm
'cause you
pretty
said it was in-
England, Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah.
We need to
So-
get Jake a microphone so he can add his
I
little
thought we got you on, didn't we?
2 cents.
Yeah.
No, he
just didn't
he's
hook
shy.
it up. But not to jump ahead, but
Okay, my bad, my bad.
I'm still in the bookshop. But so Jimmy Page is known to have the largest collection of original works from Aleister Crowley.
Ew. That's
Right.
kind of creepy.
So then he
But
buys,
I like it, but it's creepy.
it's creepy. So he buys the Boleskine House.
Okay.
Right, and the Boleskine House,
It's also creepy.
Aleister Crowley owned it from 1899 to 1913.
Okay.
Okay.
And he got his paws on it.
But the house was built in the 1760s.
Oh, no,
and
no,
the
no.
reason that he bought it is because it had this crazy history. Jimmy Page owned it from 1970 to 1992.
Okay.
Okay. So apparently, I don't know if it's the reason Crowley bought it, but apparently the legend was that a local wizard
Okay.
raised the dead
In the house.
in this house. So there was a lot of occult stuff going on.
Hey, I'm
And-
all about occult stuff, but you wouldn't catch me dead in a house where supposedly people were raising the
Being
dead.
raised from the dead. And yeah. And apparently it then became a parish in which the congregation was inside and it burned with all of the people inside. So, and a man was beheaded in there. So Jimmy Page said,
He's like, "I'll take it."
He's like, I'll take it. This is my home.
Sounds great.
This is my dream home. But basically, he said you could hear the guy's lopped off head falling down the steps. So he was saying it was way haunted, not because of Aleister Crowley, but just because of all
the
the
history.
weird stuff that had gone.
My God.
Yeah, you figure that house was born, in the 1760s.
Oh, that's what I said.
It was-
No, that is too old for me.
Crazy. So it's
Yeah.
been plagued by fire. And it has fire and death.
Beheadings.
But in 2015 and again in 2019, it burnt and it sustained,
How is it not crumbled
so-
to a crisp? I don't.
Yeah. So somebody formed a foundation called the Boleskine House Foundation in
Okay.
2019.
Oh my God, can you tour the house?
No, well, they're restoring it to its original grandeur. I don't
Does
know
it
why
come?
you
Does it come with a head? I do kind of want to tour it. I would
head
tour it.
included. Well, on our next trip to Scotland, we're headed right for the Boleskine.
We're booking the tour. Oh my God, creepy.
Yeah, isn't that creepy?
Yeah. It really is. I didn't know that house, but that's interesting that Crowley was drawn to a house that had, you know what I mean?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, how in the world did they, like, how did he even know? Again, I always think, like,
but you might have been drawn. You know what I mean? Like, you could feel the energy.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
We have been in haunted houses, and in my opinion, I can step a toe in there and be like, nope.
I remember that house.
It's haunted.
Remember when we were trying to rent a house, or like we were looking for a house to rent?
We both walked one foot in
and turned around and said, nope.
I looked at her and I went, no, sir.
Ooh, I don't know what was hanging around in there, but
But that's what I mean.
Gosh.
If you maybe have that kind of energy as it is, maybe you're drawn to that kind of energy, and maybe he, without knowing it, just took up residence at this super haunted, creepy house.
Creepy. Yeah.
It's like, I have found my people in my home.
I'm home. Well,
that is very interesting.
Isn't it interesting? Mm-hmm. So all these weird things started happening. So no matter whatever the theory, whether it's the Faustian deal or the guy that he had the falling out with or whatever that put the curse on them, right? All these weird things started happening to the band members. So specifically, Robert Plant. So
he seems like he
seems like the coolest.
He seems like the coolest. Go for the Capricorn. What? Leave my boy Rob alone.
I know. So his family actually, they almost drove off a cliff in Greece and all perished. Yeah, and then
they all died?
No, almost.
Oh,
I mean, it was like
they all perished.
Almost, they all perished. I said almost perished. Almost. And then his 5-year-old son died of a weird stomach virus.
Really?
Sad. Yeah, very sad. And then they were supposed to go on a U.S. tour, and all the equipment was already in the U.S., and he got laryngitis, and they had to cancel the tour. And
again, I think this is why I assumed he was the one deeply rooted, because then I thought that that's supposedly why all this stuff was happening to him specifically.
Yeah, and then there was like underlying animosity because John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page didn't come to his son's funeral, and he was like, he had it and he wanted to quit the band. And then, of course, I believe in 1980, let me check my notes. John Bonham died in 1980. Mm-hmm. So after drinking 40 shots of vodka, he
putting him back,
died of pulmonary aspiration after he passed out, which of course means he was choking on his own vomit. So at that point, I think, it had been an accumulation of a lot of things, but specifically,
that is very sad.
That was pretty much the end of the band.
I don't think I knew that that's how he died, which is weird for me because I know all kind of weird facts about rock and roll, but I don't think I knew he died of an overdose.
Sometimes I get him and Keith Moon mixed up, Yeah.
I was just about to say that, and he's the one that drowned.
No. You're
drowned.
You're talking about Brian Jones from
Brian Jones.
Yeah. From
how did Keith Moon die?
Keith Moon also died of.
Okay, then I don't get him confused. I get him confused with the guy from. Okay, I'm the guy from the Who. Who's the guy from the Who?
Keith Moon.
He drowned.
No, you're talking about Brian. Keith Moon didn't drown. Brian Jones.
Something weird happened
from the Rolling Stones.
Oh,
that's Brian Jones, the original.
You know what? Cut this out. Cut it out. Yeah. So I haven't even got to the Hermit yet, which is basically, I know, right? Oh my gosh.
I know. So let's just we're gonna keep going. Because it's like, whoo. So just the art. So on the front of the cover, you see the man carrying the sticks, which represents the 10 of wands.
Fascinating. Didn't know that.
Right? Mm-hmm. Which kind of means you have to rise to responsibility and pressure.
Okay.
And then on the back, you see like these destructed buildings, and there's a poster hanging up there. And it says... someone dies from hunger every day. And so it was kind of like saying that it was trying to put the message in of, these the environment and humanity and, that weighing heavy on you, because we know the Ten of Wands in the tarot deck means, you're carrying a lot of responsibility and, all that kind of stuff. So, and then we see the the buildings that are falling into disrepair and stuff like that. But some people say it is also an early instructor of Aleister Crowley's called George Pickingill. So there's a couple theories there.
Pickingill. Okay.
But the main reason I'm fascinated, so the only lyrics that you find when you open up
Our Stairway
to Heaven. So definitely they knew or had a feeling that song was going to be pretty epic.
Well, it was epic, but it's shocking to me that they knew it was going to be like this big thing, because it's like one of a kind.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
And Robert Plant says that that's the reason that they don't get back together and do a reunion tour, because the thought of him having to sing that every night is
Yeah, but also get over it, because it made you rich and famous. So
yeah, sing it. Yeah, exactly. So specifically, when you open the album, you're seeing the hermit, and he's on top of a mountain, and down at the bottom of the mountain is this long-haired guy that's looking up like he's going to climb the mountain.
And every Led Zeppelin shirt ever has the hermit on it.
Yeah, which is, definitely, I was like, well, I love tarot, and it specifically is the hermit, which is the number 9 card of the major arcana. And specifically the Rider-Waite deck. And so that's going to be a whole nother podcast, because the Rider-Waite deck, they're also steeped in the Aleister Crowley, and they were rivals of Aleister Crowley. So the fact that Jimmy Page used that specific image was weird, because Aleister Crowley would not have approved of that. And that's why he made his own deck.
Who made his own deck?
Aleister Crowley.
Did he really?
It's called the Thoth deck.
What?
Yeah, that's another episode.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not
So
know
the
that.
hermit is, when we see the hermit, which we know, right, is guidance, reflection, and prudence.
It's your favorite card.
It is my favorite card of the tarot deck,
Right.
and I get it all the time.
You do.
So it's basically telling that you're searching for hidden knowledge, and that there's a need for retrospection and isolation and soul searching. And the lantern with the star in it is like shining the light to draw people into the truth.
Okay.
And that's what Jimmy Page was saying, is that he was trying to bring the followers up the mountain to find the truth.
I love that.
Right?
I love him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So while you're seeking the solitary illumination, you're also in the same token not allowing others to get in your way. So then they were saying that he put that on there specifically to symbolize a time in his life, because in 1976 they did a film called The Song Remains the Same,
Yes.
in which he transforms himself into the hermit.
Robert Plant.
No, Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was deeply steeped in everything going on with the album cover. He had a lot of say.
Okay.
So specifically for himself, it was talking about, despite the hermit's positive and success-inspiring energy, it warns against being too isolated away from people, because that can be harmful, and there needs to be... Are you
taking this lesson?
I'm like, that sounds just like me, and there needs to be balance, right? So that is interesting, and it also invites us to discover wisdom and progress through study, which in his sense is welcoming the masses to study mysticism and seek truth outside of the norm. But I thought this one was most like myself. The hermit is seen as a person of integrity, but is afraid to trust others and also express feelings. Dun, dun, dun. Why is this my favorite card? It's me.
She just described herself in one sentence.
And so that's kind of the take on just the album cover.
Wow.
And a little bit of history
Super
into
cool.
the band members.
Love
what do you
it.
think about that?
I am fascinated.
Did you know a lot of that?
I knew some of it.
Okay.
I did not. I knew that I got it backwards. I knew that both Jimmy Page and Robert Plant were invested in Aleister Crowley. I knew that. And I knew that a lot of their lyrics were very mystical and referenced,
Yeah.
spiritualism, the occult, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
but I did not know, like, I didn't know about the symbols. Like, I knew that they obviously meant something, but I didn't know that that's what the album was called. I didn't know. I am really excited to hear about, like, the tie between the Rider-Waite and Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Well, and they're also saying that part of the mysticism is that there were 4 tracks on each side of the vinyl, 4 symbols, and it's called Led Zeppelin IV. It's their 4th
in
album.
numerology, do you know what 4 represents?
So they were not.
I know, but I'm just curious.
I don't know, but they're saying that the reference is to the elements, the 4 elements.
Love that.
And that you need all 4.
You do.
Yeah, and so
We
that's
talk
why,
about that all the
That's
time.
why they're playing the 4s weighed heavy in this.
Wow.
Interesting, but in numerology, that's not my.
I would
in my
just be
wheelhouse
curious
to
just
see
to
what that means.
even if, like, subconsciously they, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting.
Very cool.
I had a really good time researching
Yes,
this.
I can imagine you did.
And-
There's a book I used to read. I think it was called Take a Walk on the Wild Side, but I'm going to have to look into that. That was all about this kind of stuff in rock and roll. Super cool.
To try to find it.
I will have to try to find it.
Be interesting.
I know.
For research purposes.
I know. Very cool.
Yeah.
A+.
A++. I like both of our topics.
Yeah, they were fun.
And it's weird because when you told me you were doing Witchboard, I said, that's kind of weird because I always likened the guy that played
to Aleister
Crowley as, like, but not what he looked like, because I feel like Aleister Crowley looks
spirit.
like Uncle Fester in the Addams Family, but just the
she's talking about the bad
Poster.
spirit in Witchboard, because you, like, catch a glimpse of him in the movie, and he does. I could see that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And every time I walk through our hallway, because you have that big poster, and it's like he's staring at you. So
very cool.
Yeah,
love it. I'm excited to hear the sequel to this.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
it could be a couple podcasts.
Super cool.
Not we're not going in
no, it'll
in
be
order.
right.
We're gonna shake
We're
it
gonna
up, but
spice it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, girl. Woo. Yeah, exciting.
Definitely 2 enthusiastic thumbs up on that.
I
as well.
love it. Yeah,
love it. Okay.
All right, episode 2 in the books.
Cut, print, check the gate.
Cut, print, check the gate.
You know how I think we should end every podcast?
What?
TTFN. If you don't know, means ta-ta for now, and Zarabeth, the medium in Witchboard, says it all the time. So
doesn't Tigger say it in Winnie the Pooh all the time as well?
We're going to ignore that, and we're going to go with it from the Witchboard reference. Okay?
Okay, I like it.
Okay.
I like it, but people will probably be like, that's what Tigger says.
No. Only the true fans will know what we're talking about.
Okay. TTFN.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah. TTFN.
TTFN.